Hey guys, it's Jenna here. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm here today on September 3rd to bring you a slightly late August wrap up. Can you guys even believe I read this many books this month? Because I sure can't. I went from having like a 4-book wrap up to a 14-book wrap up, which is very exciting. Too late to move this fence now, isn't it? Yep. Okay, cool. So, in total, I read 14 books in the month of August. My lowest rated book was a 3-star, and obviously my highest was a 5-star. I ended up having 11 5-star books. 11 out of 14. A 4.5 star, a 4-star, and a 3-star. So let's get into this, shall we? The first book I read in August was Heroine Diaries, A Year in the Life of a Shattered Rock Star by Nikki Sixx, creator of Motley Crue, the bassist of Motley Crue. This tackles his addiction with heroin, obviously, as in the title. And basically this is just full of diary entries of how he felt or how he thought when he was shooting up on heroin, and how it impacted not only him but other people around him, like his family, his friends, his bandmates, stuff like that, and just how life-changing it is. And it actually goes into depth about his overdose and how he actually died from heroin. He was revived in the ambulance, but you know, he died for a little bit there. And overall, I really did like this. It's just because I've never read nonfiction before that it was kind of weird for me. So I ended up giving it a 3 stars. But don't get me wrong, I actually did like this. It was just a little bit different than what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be more hard-hitting instead of mostly party and a couple hard-hitting things, which I get that that's what his life was. He ignored his emotions and was all party all the time and didn't really want to acknowledge that he was struggling. But like when I went into it, I was just thinking it was going to be more like dealing with it rather than just explaining what the band was doing. Yeah. Okay. Next, in August, I finished Empire Storms by Sarah J. Maas, which was our June pick for my Massathon that I host with Sassy Ginger Book Obsession, like Melissa. And I finished this. I gave it 5 stars. This was my reread of it, and I absolutely adored it. It made me cry. So I gave this 5 stars. This is book 5 in the Throne of Glass series. I still have yet to annotate this. I still have to annotate it, but you know, I finished it, which is what counts. And yeah, the live show for this will probably be the first weekend of September. So, you know, not this past Memorial Day weekend, but this upcoming weekend, maybe. If I'm at my dad's, it'll happen. If I'm not, it'll just be pushed to the next time I am at his house, because I have to have internet in order to do it. So yeah. Next, in August, I read In an Absent Dream by Shauna McGuire. This is book 4 in the Wayward Children series, and this focuses on, oh, this is where my other bookmark went. Ignore me. This focuses on Lundy, whose door opens up into the goblin market, and I adored this. I loved Lundy. I loved all the characters she met. I felt like I really understood her as a character, and I really liked the world that she has grown to love. I felt like this was one of the worlds that I understood the most, like Fair Value. Like that just made so much more sense to me than High Logic or High Nonsense or anything along those lines that was in the other books. Like this just made the most sense to me. And even the ending, though it was sad, I could appreciate the ending and the lesson it kind of told. So gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is an adult romance setting on what am I talking about? This is an adult romance that focuses on two co-workers for a publishing company Lucy and Josh. And after their companies merged together, both companies were kind of run differently. Lucy was from one company, Josh from the other, but now they are in the same position at the same company, and they're coming up to a promotion, and they have to fight harder than ever to be considered for the promotion. The other thing is that they hate each other. They can't stand one another's personality, but the tension between them has reached its boiling point, and Lucy's discovering maybe she doesn't hate Josh, and maybe he doesn't hate her either. Maybe this is just another one of their games. And I really did like this. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I'm glad that it lived up to the hype because it was super cute. I'm glad I read it. So, the 5th book I read in August was Nocturnal. I'm sorry, my freaking window. By Wilder Poetry. This is basically a poetry collection focusing on grief and love and loneliness, and I loved it. I mean, it's got beautiful illustrations all throughout it. Like, the illustrations are absolutely stunning. This isn't an illustrated page. What am I talking about? I ended up giving this 4 stars just because I wish there were more poems that I could relate to. I didn't relate to as many as I had hoped, but it was still a beautiful book, so I gave it 4 stars. And yeah, there was a lot of poems focusing on love, so if you're into that kind of poetry, I would definitely pick that one up. Next, I finished With the Fire and High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This focuses on a teen mom, Imani, who got pregnant in her freshman year, and she has a certain magic when it comes to cooking. People claim to feel certain things when they taste her cooking, and she has just been gifted from a young age when it comes to cooking. When her school introduces a new culinary class, she's hesitant to take it, and has some problems with the instructor that she overcomes. She also starts to have feelings for the new boy in school, Malachi, and it's hard for her to trust him after what happened with her first boyfriend, the father of her child. Let me see. She starts cooking. Her only choice is to let her talent break free. So she's trying. Throughout this, I really love the growth. I love seeing Imani put herself and others' needs equally together. Before, she was always putting everyone else before herself. It's nice to see her grow as a person and realize her potential. And I just loved her personality. So I gave this 5 stars. Next, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This focuses on a girl named Monica Grant. Monica Grant? Is that her name? Monique Grant. Who is... The famous icon Evelyn Hugo reaches out to her work company and asks to be interviewed by Monique specifically. And they try to send more experienced people, but Evelyn is 100% solid that if she does not get Monique, she is not giving out an interview. So through this, Monique goes to interview Evelyn, not just for an article, but to tell her life story. She wants to give it to Monique. And there are certain reasonings behind it. Evelyn tells her life, what went behind all of her 7 husbands, and what her life was truly like behind the scenes that no one had ever known about. And I really, really love this book. I could foresee myself rereading this very soon. I absolutely loved it so much. It was so interesting. This has some LGBTQ rep. It's set in Los Angeles in the 1950s, all the way through to the 1980s when she leaves show business. And it was great. The plot twist was not what I was expecting. The ending had me crying. I just love this book. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. I struggled not to just start over and pick it right back up after I put it down. So, love that book. Okay. Next, I finished Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the final book, which is book 3 in the Caraval series. I think that's what it's called. Yes, Praise for the World of Caraval. It's very good. To this day, I still don't know how to describe Caraval. It's basically a magic circus hosted by this immortal named Legend. And nobody knows who he is or what he looks like. Nobody's ever met him. It's all just this magic, mayhem, fantastical world. And I really loved Finale. I gave this 5 stars. It was great. I loved it as a wrap-up. It was really good overall. I will say, though, I like Scarlet more than I like Donatella. Next, I finished Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas, which was our July pick for my Massathon. This is book 6 in the Throne of Glass series. Technically, it was just supposed to be a novella, but she turned it into a full book. And this focuses on Chaol and his adventures to the southern continent with Nezrin. And the first time I read this book, I almost skipped it. But after finishing Empire Storms, Kingdom of Ash was not out yet, and I was so desperate to be in that world somehow. So I'm like, I guess I'll pick up Tower of Dawn, but I'm not gonna like it. And I swore that I was not going to like Tower of Dawn. And you know what? I freaking loved it. I adored it. It's so good. It's the exact redemption arc that Chaol needed, and I feel like you just get so much more for the story between Empire Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. Those 3 just tie in together so great. It's like they're all just one book, but she couldn't obviously do that, so she had to split them all up. So if you don't know, Tower of Dawn is set in the same exact time period of Empire Storms. So it's just following different people in the same time frame. And Tower of Dawn was great. I loved every single new character we met. Well, except for some. But overall, the main characters that were introduced, I adored. I love Irene. I love Hussar, Sartak. I love them. And I would highly recommend reading this and not skipping over this one, because a majority of people do skip over Tower of Dawn when reading Throne of Glass. Don't do it. You will not regret it. Reading this, it's just an asset to the series I didn't know I needed until I read it. It's just so interesting. There's so many things that make so much more sense when you're going into Kingdom of Ash after reading Tower of Dawn. So, 5 stars for this. I loved rereading it. Next, I finally hopped on the bandwagon and read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And while I did not like this as much as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I can definitely appreciate this story. It's basically set in this band called The Six, run by the 2 Dunn brothers, Billy and Graham. And after Daisy Jones is introduced to their label, they ended up doing a song just to kind of improve the other sound, and together they become Daisy Jones and the Six. And this basically just follows the ups and downs, the highs and lows of rock and roll, and will ultimately cause them to break up. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. I wanted it to be a little bit more like wowing, kind of like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo wowed me. I guess if I had read this first, I probably would have adored it. However, after reading this Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, it was obviously very different. So, but I still greatly enjoyed this. I still gave it 5 stars, and I would highly recommend it if you're into that. It's kind of set in like a interview type thing, where it's like Billy, da 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 da, and then it's Graham, da 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 da, and they only say a certain amount of things. Hang on, I just have to show you how it's set. Like, you know, it's set in like interview format, where it goes like Daisy, Karen, you know, kind of like a script. I really liked this. 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm really excited to see what Taylor Jenkins Reid comes up with next, because next I finished The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is book 3 in the Woman or Some Type of Magic. Let me look. I just have to... Yeah, Woman or Some Kind of Magic series. And I think this was probably my favorite one. I really, really liked this one. I also liked how she, and if you guys didn't know, this is a poetry collection. She included some works from other authors and other fans and other poets. And I really liked that. I feel like they all incorporated into the story very well. And I can't wait to move on to some of her other poetry collections. But I finished the Woman or Some Type of Magic series. Can't wait to see what she comes up with next. I gave this 5 stars. Yeah, 5 stars. Alright, so next I actually picked this up on a whim. This wasn't supposed to be on my TBR at all. I just saw it on my shelf and I'm like, you know, I'm still in the mood for poetry. Why don't I just pick this up? So I read Planting Gardens and Graves Volume 3 by R.H. Sin. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I related to a lot of these poems. I was like taking pictures left and right because I like to take pictures of them, post them on my Instagram or my Bookstagram, or just use the quotes in the near future. And I just like taking aesthetic pictures of poetry. Wow. I'm so basic. And I loved this so much. I gave it 5 stars. I am definitely planning to pick up the other volumes of this. R.H. Sin has a lot of other poetry collections. So these are all going to be on my list. As well as Atticus Poetry's new book, which is coming out in 7 days. I'm so excited for it. I'm pretty sure it's called The Truth About Magic, and he's like my favorite poet. I love his stuff. I can't wait for that to come out. I'm so pumped. So I gave that 5 stars. Next, I ended up finishing Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. What? This was our August pick for my Massathon, so I'm all caught up on the Throne of Glass series. I finished it. I finished a complete reread in 8 months. Holy cow. A book a month. Or in my case, it's supposed to be a book a month, but sometimes I read 3 in a month and call it good, you know? Okay. This is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and honestly, I was flying through my reread of this. I read it in, I'm pretty sure, 6 days flat. 6 or 7 days flat. I read this. Still made me cry. Without fail. I was like crying for a half an hour trying to finish this book, and I'm like, it's so good. I love it so much. So obviously I gave this 5 stars. I'm so glad I finally got to reread it. The only unfortunate thing is I still have to annotate the last 3 books from my Massathon. So I have to annotate Empire Storms, Tower Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. Because I've just been doing the annotating as I go along this time. And I find it very helpful. But obviously I can't just have 3 books not annotated. So, yeah. Finally, the last book I read in August was Nightmare Canis by Shami Staval. And this is a book that was sent to me for review by the author. I absolutely loved this. So this is centered on a boy named Volk Savan. Yeah, Savan, who is a grave digger in his town of Ruma. He wants nothing more than to be like his hero, the legendary magical swashbuckler Gregory Ruma. But first he needs to become an arcanist. Someone capable of wielding magic, which requires bonding with a mythical creature. And he will literally take anything. He stumbles across a nightmare, which is a creature made of shadow and terror, and he has no reservations, but the nightmare knows a terrible secret, and that is that Ruma is a murderer out to spread corrupted magic throughout their island nation. In order to protect his home, adopted sister, and the girl he admires from afar, he will need to confront his hero, the Master Arcanist Gregory Ruma. And this was really good. I loved the story. I loved the concept. I thought that the concept of being an arcanist, like bonding with a magical creature and being able to wield their powers to protect people, was so cool. I loved hearing about all the different magical creatures. It was just so interesting. And then the plague came about, and it was just so, like, creepy and cool. And I thought it was so interesting, and I cannot wait to read more from this series. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only thing that knocked it down a half star was that I wish there was more detail in between different things. Like I wish we knew more about the plague, I guess, like where it originated. I don't know if that's going to be explained in the next book, but I also wish the ending wasn't so abrupt. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read more from this. So, with that being said, that was all of the books I read in August. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for a brand new video, which will probably be my September TBR. I already have that filmed, but you know, late to the party, so I had to film this so I could upload it before my September TBR. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time for a new video.